Well, welcome to another episode of the Residential Developer Podcast. I'm the host, Nathan Battershall, and we've got our podcast resident back for another episode. We've got Mulisa from Buy and Develop. Good to have you in, buddy. How you doing?
I'm great, mate.
You made that trip across from Canberra again just to be on this episode?
Always, mate. You know, so I feel like I'm part of the furniture now here.
Yeah, but the good thing is you've got obviously a lot of work that you do in Sydney, South Coast, North Coast, so you're always looking at a new site or checking out sites and negotiating and dealing with new people.
Yeah, so you're always traveling anywhere. My life is filled with traveling.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah.
I love the action.
That's good. And look, obviously, we've got a lot of regular listeners who listen in every week, but every week we get new people that haven't listened to the podcast before. So although you've spoken on previous episodes, and if you haven't heard Mulisa before, go back and watch some previous episodes. But can you just give us a high level, just a quick rundown on what you do, like what it is that you do, just so for anyone listening for the first time that does projects or developments or is looking for someone to help them in the area of site acquisition, like what it is you do and how that all works.
So pretty much what I do and to what we do, we've got a team that works with us. There's whole infrastructure that we've put together as a system to help people get properties to develop. As lately, it's been very hard to get properties on the market that can be developed, that are feasible. It's almost impossible, you know. So before properties go on the market, they've already been looked at by tens, if not hundreds of people. You know, the real estate agents already put them through people, and if it's on the market, it's either because it's overpriced or there's something wrong, right? So you get something good on the market, but you used to be able to years ago, but the construction costs are just way too high now, right? So there's very few properties around that can be feasibly developed. So what we do is we run a consulting and acquisition firm, which goes out there and seeks these properties out off market, some before going on the market, where before agents when agents get them, we get them before they even go anywhere on the market. So we go directly straight to the source. Usually we're dealing directly with the vendors, negotiating with the vendors, getting them with favorable settlements, right?
Yes.
For both parties. As these vendors were usually people just sitting at home.
Yeah.
So people just relaxing. They're not thinking of selling, and they're usually a little bit of the older age, so they always need help with this kind of things, you know. So as we know at the moment, over 70% of Australian adults don't have $1,000 savings.
Yep.
Which it's an insane number. That's if you're walking past 10 people, 7 out of 10 don't have $1,000 savings. So how is someone who's older meant to downsize and get a property that suits their needs at this age without the money to even put it on the market? Because usually there's something missing on the house. There's usually a window smashed, the walls need this. There's some money needs to be spent, right, before you put a house on the market. And they also, that whole process is too stressful.
Yes.
For a lot of people, right? We do it a lot, so it just seems like it's common sense. But I remember myself signing my first contract, that it was very stressful because it's something just so new and foreign. But we take all that stress from them. We hold all the responsibility on us, and we give them enough time to find a new place while they know that their property has been sold, and they're happy to always give us the time. And also helps on our side with the buyers, as the buyers can get their DA, CDCs, and so on within the meantime. So it's a very helpful system to get more properties more properties developed in a lot of these areas. So most of these properties were properties that were never ever going to be on the market, right? So we're bringing things on the market that were never ever going to be in the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a very unique system. We do. I know a lot of people have tried doing it for themselves and so on. You see a lot of people get maybe 1 or 2 properties a year, and then most people, a lot of clients we work with, they go, well, when they start, they go, well, I've sort of tried to do something similar myself, but I just couldn't get the properties, right? But I think it's just because I've been doing it for so long. All those mistakes have been made, and it's a lot of it is compound knowledge, and there's little things you need to do to be able to get the system working and make it beneficial for all individuals and all parties involved.
Yeah.
So that's really pretty much what we do. It's a lot of work, right? So we end up as pretty much part of your business, right? You do what you do best.
Yeah.
Right? You keep developing. We keep the product there. Some people want pipelines.
Yep.
We can help them with that. Some people will have pipelines of up to 10 properties. You stake it up in a fashion where they can roll on to the next one.
Yes, or do a couple at the same time, or
exactly.
Yeah.
So all that we help with that, which is something that's almost impossible if you're going to be doing it online. And let's say you're looking for these properties for yourself, it's just you won't be developing, because this stuff takes, for us, it takes almost 6 hours every day of my life, no days off.
Yeah.
So
it's precision, time,
yes,
effort.
Yes.
And let's look at development and property. Like a lot, not everyone, but predominantly a lot of people get into property is to generate wealth.
Yes.
Or for a lot of people, it's to generate wealth and buy themselves more time. To spend more time with the people they love and do more things they love to do. And I know I say to a lot of people in this industry where they look at it and they say, well, I'm going to try and do it myself. But the problem is, while they're doing that, they're getting away from their own expertise, their own skill set, their own point of genius, and they're doing something they're not good at. And all of a sudden, everything gets stressful. So I agree. Like I think there is a place for it. There's such a place for this, for that, especially for that person who's great at their day-to-day job or their career or their business or their whatever it is. Some are full-time developers, others are very successful business people or executives or people, bankers or accountants, lawyers, you name it. They're great at their day-to-day and they want to generate some wealth through doing some property on the side. And it rarely ends well, does it, where someone tries to do they try and find the sites themselves and then they get away from their zone of genius.
Yes, well, most of the times it ends bad luck. So when you get a lot of clients who are usually, if it's surrounded their first developments and so on, some of them have been project managers. This is the thing. Some of them have been project managers and they've worked for a builder or developer, something like that. They've been in the industry some kind of way, right? So they have this type of perspective, which it works on their side, but when it comes to the acquisitions, it's completely different. Because listen, if you buy bad, you can't turn that bad buy into a profitable. No matter who you are, you could get a Harry Trader booth to try and get a terrible buy into a profitable. It's just not going to happen, right? But if you buy it extremely well, the foundation is great, the property is extremely profitable and is structured. One thing a lot of people don't think of is structure, right? It's structured in the right way. My little nephews could do it themselves.
Yeah.
Really, you could really pay someone just to look after it, which a lot of people do, but a lot of properties aren't on the market. You're not going to find something that's so profitable that you can, as a day-to-day, let's say, wealthy IT man, buy properties and then you get someone else to handle the development side and still pay them and still make a profit. No, it's hard to find that.
Yeah.
Especially you make a pipeline of it. Oh, it's difficult. You need to have these properties constantly coming, which is we happen to have figured it out. We happen to be good at it. And to be honest, it happened by mistake because this is not what I started off trying to do. It just happened and it's just kept growing and kept growing, So, which is the amazing thing about it is it happened by mistake,
Yeah.
But it just caught fire and yeah. And a lot of people say, but why don't you just develop them all? Same thing. It's like, right, I like this. I'm good at this. But yeah, there's some developments that we'll partake in. But this thing itself takes every waking second of my day. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's I love it. I actually love it. I thrive in building people. When you get that big client who starts off with one, they finish it off. Now they get two, and then now they come back. They want to do four. Also the vendors. It's a beautiful. It's a win-win situation for all parties.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I like it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And look, I thought what we could talk about today, and I think it's an important topic, very important, is the importance. And look, the reality is a lot of people are doing projects. The vision and the dream is to have projects that operate and run without you. But I'm massive, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, is no matter what point you get to, you as the owner or you as the person responsible for the development, it's important to know your numbers. It's important to be on top of your numbers at an acquisition stage. Now, you want to have amazing people around you, whether it be acquisition, designer, planner, architect, builder, consultant doing acquisition, all of those moving pieces. But at the end of the day, the person who needs to know their numbers at the end of the day is you. Is the buyer, is the owner, is the developer. Now, it's an area of the business where you can't escape it, and it's an area in time you can build people up within your own structure that can do that. But this is where I see a lot of people come unstuck, is because what they've done, they've relied too much on what one real estate agent said, or they've relied too much on what one builder said it would cost, or they've relied on too much on their friend down the road that said it would do this, or they haven't taken the time to do some checks themselves. And so I want to speak a bit into that today, because I think I like your system, because obviously you acquire sites off market. You even go to the length of doing high level preliminary FISOs, but they're only high level enough for the client that they need to then go do their homework to make sure that they've got their own level of comfort. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. So this is very imperative, right? That you know what you are doing, even though you're getting assistance, right? And you have to know what you are doing, because we do have some clients that will come up and they'll say, we're looking for a property in this area, right? We want it in this area for whatever reason, right? Maybe because they're new to it, they want to be close to it, they want to emotional reasons. First thing I always tell people, you never be emotionally attached to any site or any property. If something came up profitable in super profitable in Perth, you jump on it. If you didn't need to, that it's not about. It's not about that. You have to let the numbers and the facts state that it's profitable, not how you feel. And also, you talk to someone, a builder tells you, or some clients come up, oh yeah, this builder told me it's going to be, this huge, like I'm talking about 280 square meter each duplexes, 4 bedroom, like 3 bathrooms, 4 garage car park, and they told me it's going to be a maximum of $600,000 turnkey each. Turnkey each. So, and that's what they're banking on. And you tell them, I don't think that place works. They're going, no, it works. I've done my numbers. I've looked at it, and so sometimes you have to literally show them and then they realize, maybe. So that's where it comes to, you do your homework. You need to learn. The moment, even with me, the moment you think you know everything, that's the end.
Yeah.
It stops there. It's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be able to learn. You need to be able to call. You need to be versatile with your thinking as well. Right. So some people will call a real estate agent. Let's say it's a lot of suburbs, by the way. There is no, people say the market is going up, market's going down. I don't believe in the market, maybe markets in particular areas, because there could be a suburb with 4 different pricings, right? So in this area, just on the other side of the street, the properties are $1 million or more, and you don't even know why. Probably because it's closer to the beach, but it's just, there's so many different things. So you could call one agent just because it looks like, this guys looks like they've sold the most properties in the area. But yeah, they've sold the most properties in the cheap area.
A different market.
They don't even know nothing about, they haven't sold nothing in the area you're looking at. And then you're going to ask them, they're just going to give you a number and you're going to believe it, right? So you also have to do, you have to think smart. You have to look at what's my end product, who's going to be buying my end product, who's going to be selling my end product, and then now go have a look who sells these end products in the area that I have it, who's the type of buyer who buys this end product. So now you have to know, is it going, do I have to put a 4-bedroom there? Does it have to be single level? Is it elderly people buying this area? Is it younger people with families? What is it? And then also you have to make sure it's the agents who sell in that area. Then call a few of them, and surely you'll get an easy picture. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult to tell, right? It's not that difficult to tell, but you have to learn how to really, those things. Those things I say there will give you an edge like no other, right? They'll give you an insight that not many people will have. Right, so just those 3 things, right? And when you talk to builders who've built what you're looking to do. You can't talk to a builder who builds apartments or premium this to about pricing on something completely different.
Yeah.
So you just know your product. That's the first thing. What's your end product? Then go from there.
Yep.
Right. If you don't know what your end product is, there's no reason calling anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And look, at the end of the day, when you're doing a development, you've only got yourself to look in the mirror when the numbers don't work, because at the end of the day, if you're spending 1, 2, 3 million on acquisition, then you might be spending anywhere from 1.5, 1.3, 2, 2.5, 3, $4 million. You could be spending anywhere from 2.5 to $4 or $5 million on a development. Like, why would you not take the time to really hone in on your own numbers and to take the time to ensure they do stack up? Because I think, I think that is one area you've got to be on top of things, because I don't know any good investor or developer who didn't get successful by knowing their numbers. I've talked about it in a couple of podcasts. Like, I recently finished reading Harry Triguboff's book, and even to this day, I don't know how old he is. He might be 90. Every day he still looks at the sales numbers. He still looks at his numbers. And this is a guy who has an amazing team of accountants and people around him. As the owner, he still looks at his numbers.
Yes.
And I just, like, I can never ever get my head around why someone who's looking at a site, why you would just rely on an agent number, or on a project home company who's never built in a higher spec area, like, whereas Like, I just think it's an important part of being successful in this space and doing profitable developments is to run your own numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Have good people around you, yes, tick. Do thorough due diligence, tick. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to sleep at night knowing that your numbers stack and your numbers work.
Mm-hmm.
And because at the end of the day, no one will win if you blame the agent or blame someone else. At the end of the day, you can only blame you.
Yeah.
You can only blame yourself because you did not run your numbers. You did not cross-check numbers. It's not a matter of not trusting someone, but it's a matter of being able to sleep well at night, knowing that you've cross-checked and run those numbers and that you're confident that it stacks.
That's the main thing. So I'll tell you one thing, and this has actually happened with a few clients, right? So they'll find properties, I'll look at a property, and it really is, you don't feel good about it. It's not feasible, right? But it's barely feasible. But these people just, I don't know, it's emotional attachment as well, right? So it's just that thinking it is blind faith, right? It helps sometimes, but everything has to be moderate, right? So we don't get involved. I've told them straight away, I can't let you buy something that I think is going to hurt you. And then most of them, what they said were, no, it's all right. Listen, I'll always take responsibility if it goes wrong. But no, I'm just not going to be a part of it. Because when things do go wrong, you're to blame.
People's attitudes change.
You're to blame. And then it's not even about blaming it. I'm not even really worried about that. It's just, I do not want to be part of wasting time and into things that hurt people, into things that don't bring unfruitful, I don't like to be part of things where there's just I'd rather be spending that energy on winning.
Yes.
Right. So, but as I said, with a lot of new clients on the cabinet, I do let them know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will have to take control, and sometimes I'll have to let go if there's a property that I think does not work, but they really think it works. If I believe it doesn't work, I can't be part of it.
Yes.
Because I can't let them. I can't sit there knowing that this is just, we're working with luck, right? I'm not here for. This is not a gambling. It's not a casino. We're not here to gamble.
Yeah.
And when you lose money in this industry, you don't lose a little bit of money. You lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? You're holding. When you work with us, you have to realize something. We are holding people's lives in our hands. Right? We're holding some of your life. So you will make a decision of some of your like we're consulting you on some of your life savings. Right?
Mm.
So I do not want to be part of something that can damage you or hurt you, because that hurts us. And it's just So the situations like that have happened, and yes, I had let go, and and exactly what I said did happen, right? Yeah, to the fact, the first time it ever happened, I really told this fella, just didn't listen. It's when I was in my early stages. And I seen him about a year and a half later, and I'd already seen when they were selling the end product that wasn't profitable, and I looked at him and went, "Damn, I told him." And when I seen him, he just put his head down, and I just didn't. Yeah, he just walked straight past,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to make him feel bad,
Yeah.
But these things happen, like sometimes. Yeah, listen, we do this every day, right? So sometimes we have to take lead, right? We have to take a strong lead, because if you're going the wrong direction, it's our responsibility to pull you away from that. But if you can't, some people just can't be helped. But really, you have to take this onto yourself to do the hard work. at first and make sure you get all. You make sure you know what you are doing, and then we're happy to do everything. We'll do the due diligences, everything. When you get a property from us, you will know it works, right? But at the same time, it's up to you to look at everything, right? You have to. Yep.
That's it. And you're getting a starting point. You're getting like a feasibility, giving outlines of potential sales, construction costs, all that sort of thing. And it's obviously high level. But it's a starting point for you to then go away, crunch down deeper into those numbers, forensically go through it. And it's a great starting point. It's something that you can get good at it. And
Yes.
and if you're willing to put the effort and the time in, and like you said, you're willing to strip away the emotion from it and look at what is your goal out of this. If it's your dream home, well, you look at it a bit different. You look at it with a bit more emotion. But if it's purely for a development or an investment based purpose, you got to look at it that way. And I saw during COVID, off the back of COVID, when everyone thought the market, obviously COVID for a couple of months, the market died. Then it just went ridiculous for a couple of years. At one stage, everything was going to auction. And I had clients who literally were missing out on so many development sites. And I just said, like, you're crazy. Don't go to the auctions. And the problem is, and I get, like, there's that whole, the FOMO thing, the whole fear of missing out. And I see this too much with investors and developers. If the bank says to them, you've got 3 months, this loan will last for 3 months. So they're in such a rush to go and acquire that site, they then go and they miss out on 8 or 9 sites, and they get so stressed out that they take it's like they just take whatever's on offer, and you look at it and you're just going, you do not buy this thing. You're buying a lemon. You're buying a train wreck of a site. And that's why, like, for me, you're better off to go and reapply for that loan. Or the thing I love about your service is you get an idea of how much money borrowing capacity you've got. Then you know what you're working with in terms of their acquisition. But don't go and get your finance too early in the piece, and then you can hunt down a site that you're not competing with every man and their dog, and you're not making stupid decisions of rushing in. Like, the amount of people that have come to me where they've already acquired the site prior to coming to me for planning advice or help in that space, you look at it straight away and you're just like, this does not work.
Yeah.
But then the problem is they're trying to build something that's impossible to build for that price they need to build it for it to stack up.
Yeah.
And you're telling them that. And again, like this, there's too much of this happening in our industry. So because people are buying the wrong site, they're paying the wrong price, they haven't run their numbers appropriately, or that FOMO, they don't want to miss out on a development site, so that they'll take an average site when an absolute piece of gold is sitting under the dirt.
Yes.
If only they took the time to maybe scratch the surface a little bit longer. There's always there's always gold under the surface, isn't
Always,
there?
always.
If you're willing to look.
But what I love the most is people tell me, the real estate agent said, I can fit this many and the build cost will be this much.
Yeah.
So a real estate agent can tell you a build cost, and they can tell you what can be fit on a property.
Yep.
How could a real estate agent is a mouthpiece? How are they meant to know these type of this? You have to realize that people get paid a lot of money just to be able to tell you that.
Yeah.
You literally, people will charge you $3,000 to be able to tell you how much something is, how much you can fit on it, if it works, and how feasible it is. It costs thousands. So how can a real estate agent who's going to be making money on the sale tell you, and you listen and you buy it? Sometimes you really need to think. This industry, this is not a game. There's a lot of money to be made here, right? So, which means it's a high risk thing, and a lot of people mess up at the start, like we all did. So at the end run, I feel like I'm just getting paid for all the money I lost,
Mm.
all the mistakes we
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I'm getting reimbursed for that
Yeah.
because nothing ever goes to plan. But our job is to minimize the things that can go wrong. And also, when you're talking about finance, this is one other thing I've figured out, right? So a lot of people get stuck on the money side, right? Listen, when you have a good feasible site and you've got it at a 9 month, 12 month, period, you've paid a 5% deposit, you've done a CTC and so on. If it's profitable, like if I anyone will give you the money to develop it and buy the property. It's not about really what there's so many options as long as the site is profitable enough for those people to come in and put some money in and get a good sort of return for that little short time and so on. So there's too many ways, but people just want to work in this traditional, you buy a house to the bank and then the site is the first thing, right? The site, but obviously make sure you can somehow service it, right? But at the end of the day, if it's a good site, a very, very good site, you have a lot of options. A lot. You have a lot of options. That's for me, the money side is not what you usually when you start off, people, that's the sticking point. I don't even think about it, to be honest, right?
Well, I look at I know as a kid I used to love all the pirate stories and the treasure stories, the treasure hunting.
Yeah.
And like for me, I look at it as an adult now. Like I remember as a kid, I used to love that stuff, the idea of finding treasure.
Yes.
And I look at this developments like site acquisition, finding it's the closest thing I've discovered in terms of joy and excitement. I go back to being a little kid again, just when hunting for a site and you're looking through all the bad stuff, and then all of a sudden you find this piece of gold, that no one realized existed. And like for me, that's the closest thing that brings me back to that little kid just imagining. Oh, imagine if I dug up a bit of treasure in the dirt, like
brother. I think I've said this before, even on this show, that if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be a gambler. I'll probably be in the casino gambling because I feel like it's the same. It's the same feeling. I think that's why I love it so much, right? And you, especially this is what I love the most when you get those deals that no one else sees the value in, like where it's actually so many people look at it and they go, nah, it doesn't work, and you see the value in it, and then within a month they come back. Is that property still there? Is that property still there? It's this, but I think that thing is like the fact that I don't know. I think when you do something for so long, this is why. I really think this is why, right? So we spend most of our days we're looking at all this stuff from the top, right? So we're looking for like in the whole state. We're looking at
overlays.
We're looking through the statistics on all different places. So we're watching them change, right, from road to road. So you end up after years, you end up with this picture on your mind. You end up just knowing things because every time when you go to these places, you're driving through the streets, you can't tell, man. So now I know why the perspectives like that, because you can't tell why is this place more expensive than the other. Why? It doesn't make any sense. But then when you start looking for from the top, right, is these things you start seeing. There's so many things that bring value to property that people wouldn't even think of. Some of them they almost seem crazy. But they actually put up sometimes extra $500,000 on a property, and you only start seeing this, I guess, from just doing it for so long that you see the pattern. But then you get people who've been down there for a long time, doing this stuff down there, and they just won't see it until one day, I don't know what what happens is they just end up seeing it somehow, and they won't see it even when you're trying to show them. They still won't see it, but then one day they see it, and they go, "Wow, what?" And yeah, so that's what I love. That's my favorite. When you get these things where it's like no one else even sees the value, but like I see it clear as day.
Yep.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
and that's the beauty in Australia, New South Wales especially, but all over Australia, we have the great Australian dream back in the day was the quarter acre block, half acre block, 1 acre block. We have the landscape's changed in our nation, and we have so much gold sitting in backyards in Australia, in New South Wales, in Sydney, in regional areas, in coastal areas. There is so much gold sitting in backyards that is untapped in, that is untouched. And as I always say, there's a record number of downsizers coming over the next decade. My parents' generation, the baby boomer generation, who are in the position of wanting to downsize. As you said, some don't want to go down that path of having to renovate the house to sell it. There is so many off-market sites coming, available, that are there. You just have to be willing to go on the treasure hunt. You have to be willing to take the time to execute and to source those out. And all of a sudden then you're not competing against 20, 30, 40, 50 other buyers.
Oh, that's the worst thing, So I think that's one thing that's very good with what we do. You're not competing with all these people that are just gonna, you're competing sometimes with mom and dad that they're bored. They just want to do a development. Sometimes they just literally want to do a duplex so they can keep one and live in one next door and just and not even make money. Just make at least not lose money.
Yeah.
So you're fighting with people who are right with making literally 0% profit on investment.
Yep.
And it's just ridiculous. I want people to go on the market, right, in some of these areas, and go have a look at the properties that have been sold in the last 6 months, right, for developments and the prices that were sold at, and tell me how many of them are feasible. One other thing, people always tell me, "Oh, but there's a lot of duplexes in this area. Look at their hips." I always tell them, "Go do a feasibility on them and let me know." And then they all say the same thing.
They don't like.
Yeah, they say, "Well, why are they doing them?" I don't know. It's I cannot comprehend it. So a lot of these people are losing money. Same as some people who call us trying to sell the property that they bought last year for 1.7 and they want to sell it for 1.3, and you're thinking, why? You get skeptical. Why? But it's because that same thing. People listen to an agent saying, "Oh, you can put 3 there," and then in their head they calculate, "Oh, 3," and then I pay. They don't even know how to calculate. They'll just buy.
And at the end of the day, with an agent, what's an agent's number one goal? The first goal for an agent is to get the listing. Now, the way to get the listing is to tell the vendor,
Highest.
I can get you the highest price. So if the property's worth 1.2 market value and it needs to be 1.2 to stack up as a development, they'll say, "Oh, I can get you 1.4.
Yep, more.
Now, often they'll get more. But the problem is there's a couple of $100,000 already of uplift of development potential just stripped out of that site.
Yep.
Now, the only person that won out, or 2 people won, the vendor won, and the agent, he got his commission.
Yep.
But the problem is it does not work for projects.
Yes.
So often the only way for a project to work is for it to be market value.
Yes.
And
sometimes it could be more than market value.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be less. So for me personally, I don't even look at market value, right? I look at feasibility. But the only things, market value sometimes it has to be looked at when you're working with people who are working with a lot of brokers and so on, because these brokers will lend money due to the market value and so on.
Well, at the end of the day, they've got to do valuations.
Yeah,
it's got to stack.
Yes, but there's times where you find a property where the market value on it is actually 1.6. It says 1.6, but the property is feasible all the way past $2 million, right? So when they buy that, and then they go into these people, they're going, the market value is this. But also, let's talk about market value. Market value is made up of matrix that are how many properties were sold in the month, and how much they cost, right? They do between the area. So the market value can change. You see a property at a market value of 1.2, like in 2 months is at 1.7, and then 2 months later it's at 1.3. So the market value is, it's not something that you can really like look at and take into it. It all comes into how many properties in that area have been sold in that amount of time, and how much money altogether those properties worth, and they average it out most of the time.
Yeah.
So market value is just, for me, it's just noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Look, I think we'll wrap it up there. But have you got any just last thoughts, just for someone who, obviously they're either doing developments or want to do developments, they want to sharpen up their ability and skills to be more on top of their numbers. What's just a lasting couple of things that you can encourage that type of investor developer to do to really sharpen up their ability to do their numbers? What's just some couple of practical tips or practical things you can encourage them in to wrap it up?
Okay, just the major things, right? The little things people worry about are always the contributions and all that type of stuff, right? Those, yeah, they're there, but what really, the things that really change the number big time, right, is the cost of the build, right, and the sale of the end product, and how much you're buying for. So, but first thing, you need to know your end product, what is going in there. So you can't know without knowing what you can put there. So I guess that's where we come into play, right? Because listen, before we even look at a property, we get them sent off to even people like you who got a list of properties sent off to people like you. You look at them, you let the team know this is how many, this is what can be done, this is what can be done with it, and then it's easier to go from there. And then, but before you do that, you gotta do research with the research agents who sold in that area, right? And they will let you know what people are asking for, not what's been sold as much. We don't really want to deal with what's been sold. We want to know what people need, because we're dealing with demand. It's supply and demand. What do people want? Do people want single stories? Who's who in that area? What do they actually want in that particular area? Well, because if it's a single story, it might cost us $200,000 less to build than if it's a double story, and we might get the same exact price, right? So the main thing is know your end product, and you know how much. The main thing, know your end product, and then know how much it will cost to build it, and leave a bit of be conservative.
Yep.
Never try to make numbers work.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself trying to make numbers work, you're in big trouble. So never do that. Never find yourself in that place.
Yep.
Right. So those are the first three things, and always understand if the numbers are tight and you're trying to do this, there'll be a next deal.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah.
Right?
Strip away the emotion.
Relax.
Walk away.
Relax. And also, if it's your first time, you have to have a good experience. Because if you have a bad experience and you lose money in your first time, it's pretty much over for you.
Yeah, some people can't bounce back from that first.
Well, you can't. A lot of people they're doing it from the money, from the equity from their house.
Yeah.
Right. So it's game over from
there. Yeah, that's it.
So that's why I guess that's where we come to help. But we usually do work with more investment firms and so on. But we also do help people there who are in their first time, right? But
have the cash and the capacity.
Yeah, the cash and capacity. But it also it's usually people who want to do it more. They want to get into it.
Yes.
Right? Not someone who just wants to do a duplex. These are people who want to get into it and do it more and more and more, because we become an arm of your business.
Yes.
And also, these people will learn. We can help you learn, and by the second, third properties, it will be small. You have the confidence.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's the main thing. But know your end product, and find out a way to know your end product and what should be there. That's the main thing. If you don't know that, usually you're stuck.
Excellent. Well, mate, been very insightful. Thank you for coming on once again. It's always very educational, and I know we got a lot of good feedback of people loving the episodes when you come in. So, look, once again, thanks for listening in. I hope you got a lot of value out of that. Melissa's details will be in the show notes. If you have any questions or you want to look into site acquisition or just get some insights and tips onto how to really go on that journey, get in touch with Melissa. Once, as usual, make sure you like, subscribe, share this with anyone you know that you think will get value out of this episode. So thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next week.